It's the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling Podcast. My name is Josh, and with me, as always, placeholder. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Whoa, hey, listen. I know what you're trying to pull. You showed up today without an intro.
Yeah.
And you're trying to lie about it. You're trying to lie about it, and you know what? That's just unbelievable. I can't believe who I'm talking to right now. You try to lie to our subscribers? Listen, let's just be honest. We don't have a whole lot of subscribers, but we love the ones that we got. And you want to lie to them. You want to lie to them. You want to lie to them.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
It's a hallway of mirrors with you.
But you know what I find really funny? I brought this. I said I was going to do this right before we started recording. You said, yeah, okay. And now you tell me.
It was a setup. You were set up. I'm the whistleblower on the show. 2-man operation. I'm the whistleblower.
Keep me honest. Yeah, I didn't have an intro, folks. We're gonna patch some. We were gonna patch something in later, but here we are.
You're laughing about it, but it's dishonest. Anyway, you know what?
The shame.
Hey, I'll tell you, I had nothing. Oh, let me just try it. All right. Okay. It's a Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling podcast. This is Josh, and with me, my co-host, Lion Flying Josh. Anyway, let's get to the show. Hey, so
I respect you, Booker man.
Hey, Logan Square Auditorium this Friday night, Logan Square Auditorium, ACH apparently coming out of retirement, or actually never retired. He's quit. Mm-hmm. He's gonna be wrestling. He's been advertised, so we'll see. So that'll be good to have him back. It's interesting because I mentioned this before on the show, where if you work through all the foliage, work through all the context, work through everything that happened between WWE and ACH and thereafter, and sort of what some would call the fallout. When you work through all that, at the end of the day, he's a heck of a wrestler. And I'm glad to see him back. Mm-hmm, and that's the thing. I'm super glad to see him back. I know he's glad to be back. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if there's any type of apology demanded or apology offered. I can't just imagine he's going to just show up and just wrestle. So it'll be interesting to see what he says on the mic.
He'll say something.
So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I have to assume he'll do more than just wrestle.
Yeah, probably. He seems like the kind of guy that's going to at least say something to the fans and say, hey, what I anticipate happening is maybe something like, hey, I don't know if I'm back for good, but here I am. Let's just have a good time. I don't think it'll be anything very over the top or very big.
The show this Friday night's AEW at Logan Square Auditorium. Tickets are limited, so get on action. You want to see it, but I don't know. I know he's wrestling Saturday night. I forget the promotion, but it'll be interesting to see. Again, I'm really glad to see him back. It's one of those where it's a heck of a story. I actually kind of thought maybe some would say Leo Rush had a similar sort of outing with WWE initially, just kind of walked away, just was done with it, then came back, and some would say he's focused, won the Cruiserweight Championship. I actually thought I might see ACH do the same thing. But again, we don't know the full story on either count. And I've said this before, I tend to lean more towards ACH. When we're talking about ACH and WWE, I tend to lean more towards ACH's side. Just, again, I think that he was wronged. I think that there was a lot that went down. And there's also, I think, the past experience of WWE we've seen and how they treat certain, sort of workers in general. And it seems like recently trying to get better, but we're talking historically, they've not been the best with all their workers. So again, I tend to take more of the ACH side on this, but yeah, I don't know. Thereafter, it seemed like he kind of just did a social media blast and told sort of the fans like, hey, I'm done with you. I'm done with wrestling. And I don't know if that was necessarily fair. I think that he's obviously, and Bray Wyatt recently came out about this in terms of like the mental health and social media. And it really just takes one thing to trigger someone.
Yeah.
And so we have this power on social media and we just say whatever we want. And I don't know if ACH was talking to all the fans or maybe just a certain group. But again, it'll be good to see him back in the ring. I have to imagine he's going to have something on his mind. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely report back here on the show what comes of it. But no, it's great nonetheless to have him back in the swing of things. So
good to have him back. Wish him well.
Yeah. Did you check out Bash of the Beach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
What'd you think of it?
Just to get this out of the way, for anybody wondering who's listening, WWE owns the content, but it doesn't actually own the trademark on Bash at the Beach. The trademark expired, and now Cody Rhodes owns it. Yeah. He also owns Battle Bowl, The Match Beyond, and a couple other things. For anybody wondering, that's why it's called Bash at the Beach, simply because they can.
Right.
So anyway, okay. 9-day extravaganza kicked off on the 15th, Josh, man.
That's right. Well, and here's the thing, kind of getting back to your point, I feel like at least this first episode, I feel like they were just having a Bash of the Beach just to have a Bash of the Beach.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, the theme was a bit there. They had a lifeguard. Justin Roberts come out in Crocs, and they had some as far as palm trees here and there. But I would have gone even more. I would have gone even overboard. Splash the beach. What I would have done is I would have planted a couple beach balls throughout the auditorium.
Oh, hey.
Have security take care of them. Have security rip them out. You know what? They're only $5. Throw out another one. Have one of your prop masters throw it out or something. You know, they'll never know. But just to make it more like a beach. What I liked about WCW when they did Bash the Beach was it actually took place on a beach. It was kind of cool.
There was an actually, yes.
Right, and I know that the second part of Bash the Beach will be on the sort of Jericho cruise, so that'll be kind of cool to see.
That's where it really comes in, I think.
Right. So, but I hope that, as far as that they're learning from this, they got, as far as the rights, well, this is an opportunity to have really, have some fun with it.
Right.
The matches itself were fine. I enjoyed watching AEW. Again, I think that Dark Order is a bit hokey. I wish they would change that a little bit, but I've kind of gone down that road already. But again, I thought with Bash the Beach, there should just be more. And I guess we'll probably get more of that on this sort of follow-up. Yeah, speaking of Dark Order, so there's sort of this rumor where Matt Hardy, and we talked about this in last show, where Matt Hardy might be going to AEW at some point. And the sort of rumor is that he would be the head of Dark Order. So that's some kind of backdoor work there. You're sort of building someone up, hoping that they're going to join your federation. But the good thing about this is, as long as you're not revealing who it actually is supposed to be, you can still change it. Right. So it's one of those where I like what they're doing with the infomercials. I just feel like sometimes it comes too hokey, but I don't know. I'm going to sort of just hang back on it because I really like the idea.
Right.
And it's just an interesting concept. So I saw on the Insta, Matt Hardy I think he was trying to emulate himself from the 90s. But honestly, you look like a young buck. So I thought that was interesting. We'll definitely see. But next week, I'm looking forward to AEW. Of course, Darby Allin's awesome. Him and Pac put on a hell of a match, didn't they?
That match when Pac slammed Darby onto the steel stairs.
Or Pac, we should say Pac. AEW. It tends to be. I've enjoyed it. I'm still kind of waiting. It seems like right now it's just a personal passion is why I watch AEW. I'm waiting for that real big storyline that just siphons me in. And I don't think it's necessarily Cody Rhodes and MJF. Although I'm glad to see they're taking their time with this. They're really developing. They're not rushing this. But yeah, and again, I think there's some opportunities with like Hangman Page. I'm actually surprised they don't make him like the face. To be the dude's a stud. He's over with the crowd. I'm glad they dropped like the sort of chaps they had on him. He used to come out in chaps, and it was like he was like a member of a community theater production of Oklahoma or something. He looked really just kind of like hokey. Again, to use that word.
Working.
Yeah, it was just too much. But, it seems like they kind of sort of flirting with this idea of turning him heel. I actually enjoy him as a face. He's kind of got that anti-hero thing. He sort of is just kind of a loner, doesn't want to be with the whole team elite. He wants to do his own thing. He comes out, the crowd's really behind him. Cowboy shit, cowboy shit. So I think that he could be that type of anti-hero that really goes across the aisle, so to speak, for everyone. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, anyway, I'm kind of excited to see sort of this Jericho style. He's done this before, the Jericho cruise. This is not the first time he's done this. He's done several cruises before, right? Like I think maybe 3.
Well, he's done at least one. This is the second one.
The second, was that right?
Okay. Chris Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Rager at Sea Part 2.
And his band performs too. Like I think it'd be cool. Like I don't know. Have you ever been on a cruise ship?
No, I have not actually.
It's interesting. I don't hate it. It's just there's something to be said where you're not connected to land. You're really stuck where you're at. And there's something to be said for that. But yeah, typically it's like with a cruise, I have a good time. It's kind of cheap to get on there, but it's really expensive to stay type of situation.
Sure.
But I think that, I don't know, I think that if you actually went on this Rockin' Rager thing, you got live music, you got wrestling, and then I'm sure you got the other stuff like stand-up comedians and all that. So I bet it'd be I bet this would be the cruise to go on.
If I ever went on a cruise, it'd probably be something like this, or Megadeth of all bands actually had their own cruise thing. Apparently this is becoming a thing, like concerts on ships or conventions on ships kind of thing. It's becoming a thing. It was called like the Mega Cruise.
What? Wait, how long ago was this?
It was fairly recent, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, like I guess this is becoming a thing. But yeah, that's probably the best idea. I mean, we know what happened with AEW's like live shows, but those were indoors. So now that this is outdoors, maybe the air will kind of circulate and won't smell quite as bad. To be rude here, but that's literally something that came up, was like there was a bit of a stink from wrestling fans because some folks, I guess they're just in the basement, watching episodes of Thunder. Some of these people.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's weird you say that because that same that same odor you're referring to, and this is, I can't really believe we're talking about this, but let's go there. All right. It's a real thing. I go to independent shows at Logan Square Auditorium all the time, and people stink. When I go to shows at, say, like Allstate Arena, maybe not so much. When I go to a Bears game, not so much. Blackhawks game, not so much.
No.
CTA, about the same.
Sure.
But every time I go to Logan Square, and I go to every different show there, I've seen everything from Shimmer to AAW to Ginju Battle I've seen it all. Everyone always stinks. And I know it's not me. Yeah. I showered like I showered, shaved. I went 2 hours prior, so I know it's not me. But you're right; it's always that kind of stench, and it's a thing people talk about. Wrestling fans stink. Why is it? Take a shower. Why can't you do it? Why can't they do it?
There is a certain segment of the wrestling fan population that they kind of live up to that stereotypical wrestling fan persona somehow, whether it's deliberate or not. Yeah. Sitting there watching, WCW all night, and and you're just never showering.
But that's
just
the thing.
watching more and more content.
What you just described is fine. That's like the life to watch, old WCW and not have to go to work or something. Right. That's awesome. But take a damn shower.
Well, some people
take a shower.
Yeah, some folks don't get it. Some folks don't know.
Oh, man. All right. Those people should be banned. They should be banned like Impact from Twitch. Hey-yo, segue. You saw that segue, right? Hey. So what's the story? So do you know about Twitch? I have heard of Twitch.
Twitch is an online streaming platform. Okay. They have apps on PS4 and Roku and things, and it's a great way to just watch people doing. Generally, it started on video games.
Okay.
But then they actually branched out into everything from cooking to music to whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Including wrestling. So that's what happened with Impact Wrestling. They had a Twitch show. They would stream the show on Twitch. Apparently,
sorry, is Twitch free?
Twitch is free. There's a paid version that grants you certain perks. I'm not sure offhand, but yeah, it's generally free. If you wanted to maybe look at it 10 years from now, maybe it's a YouTube competitor. It's that kind of thing. So,
okay.
But apparently, I can't find the clip now online. It's been taken down everywhere. But apparently, there was a segment with Rob Van Dam on this week's episode, featuring a segment with Katie Forbes and another woman, which featured blurred nudity, whipped cream, and the implication of sex. And so apparently, Impact's Twitch channel was banned because this, of course, goes against Twitch's policy of anything that's even simulated sexiness. Not even just straight up nudity and whatnot, even if it's just a little sex. So they're fairly strict, but the official reason has not actually been given, but we're pretty sure that's why it happened. Twitch bans are usually not permanent the first time around. We can probably expect it'll come back at some point, but we don't know exactly how long that ban's going to be right now.
It's interesting because I watch it. So I currently have a subscription to Impact Plus through, and you can get it through the Fight app or just Impact Plus directly. But yeah, so I did watch the episode. I've been keeping up with Impact. Yeah, it was one of those where I was watching. I'm like, the innuendos were there. I was also kind of like, wow, it seems kind of like edgy, but then I'm like, I think maybe Impact is built that way. Again, I've been catching up on Impact and ROH recently. Right. Just as a podcast investigative journalist, probably my job to know these things. So I've been watching those more often through the Fight app. Again, not an endorsement, just what I use.
Sure.
Yeah, it's one of those where I was watching, I was like, oh, I just think they're supposed to be a little more edgier. But then afterwards, I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, actually, it was quite a bit. I mean, you didn't see, there was no nudity or anything like that. It was more innuendos. But it was the bottom line is you knew what was going on. So I don't know. Personally, I actually preferred as far as the vignette over Rob Van Dam's recent wrestling. The fact that he went over on Brian Cage, and it was one of those where I expected it because the rumors Brian Cage is going to sign with AEW. Random side story. I actually met Brian Cage at a Las Vegas independent show. This is probably 6 years ago, and in the main event, he was wrestling Matt Hardy for the title, and I forgot, it was Las Vegas All-Stars, I believe, wrestling, and it was their version of the World Championship, and Brian Cage actually beat Matt Hardy that night, and so became the new champion. And I was playing in the casino afterwards and stuff, and actually Brian Cage walked by and got a chance to talk to him and stuff. Really cool guy, and I was really, really excited to see him win. So I'm hoping good things for him. But yeah, the fact that he put over Rob Van Dam, the assumption is, okay, I'm guessing Brian Cage is leaving Impact and going to AEW, right? But it was just, again, Rob Van Dam, I think time has passed him a little bit. He's not the same as he was. And honestly, like, anytime I watch him on Impact, I think he literally just smoked like 8 blunts. Now listen, this is coming from us here in Chicago. We have recreational marijuana, and hey, I enjoy recreational marijuana. But if I'm about to work, or if I'm about to, as far as like do pro wrestling, especially wrestling,
right?
I don't know. I mean, again, it's just, I don't know that he actually does it before a match. They sort of they push that he does on the show.
I see.
People knock on his locker room, like, they'll have like
There's
the smoke
a lot of
machine
smoke,
and all
yeah.
that. Yeah. So the idea is that he is doing that. I don't know if he actually is, but he has a look like he just smoked like 8 blunts. And he's about to wrestle, and that's kind of scary.
That's no good.
Well, and I've mentioned this before. Like, you think about Stone Cold Steve Austin, he'd come out, kick butt, and then do the beers and stuff.
Right.
He always did the beers after the adventure,
match,
after
yeah.
the fight. But when I see like Christopher Daniels and Kazarian walk into the ring with martinis, it just doesn't make sense, because I'm like, you're drinking. It's a physical competition.
Yeah.
Drinking, smoking doesn't actually help you. It doesn't enhance your ability to win a match, which is one of my problems with freelance wrestling here in Chicago. I know it's an academy. They are still entertaining, so definitely check out freelance if you get a chance. But they use a lot of marijuana, which is like, okay, it's a cheap side gag, I guess, because the thing again is it's a physical competition. It wouldn't actually, smoking or drinking doesn't actually help you during wrestling.
Right.
Now, after, it's one thing, but again, it's just a lot of it's speculation. I don't know if Rob Van Dam actually smokes before a match, like right before a match. I doubt it, but he just looks like he did. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. If Twitch, interesting. I'll have to check that out. I thought it was a social media. I didn't realize it was something more of like an a la carte service.
It's just a video streaming site.
I thought it was. I thought it was social media.
It's just, I guess the key differentiator you'd say would be that it's live video. Their emphasis is on live streaming, not so much.
But yeah, that was it was kind of, I guess, controversial, and it's I tell you what, that was controversy creates cash, as Eric Bischoff says. And speaking of, so Tessa Blanchard won the Impact Championship. And that's huge. All right. So I think that in some way, this is a huge step forward for women. I do think Impact is stealing history a little bit from Shakara. Kimberly did this a few years ago, and really she should be credited kind of with the inaugural woman to hold, I guess, what was predominantly a man's title. So anyway, congratulations to Tessa Blanchard for this. I think in-ring wise, it makes sense. She deserves it. Awesome. Some would have their criticism of Tessa winning the title. I know Booker T is one of them, who said it was just flat out probably one of the stupidest ideas in wrestling. And I get where Booker T is coming from on one hand, where it seems like, okay, let's just get right down to it. Men and women should be equal. Genetically, though, men are built a little stronger.
Right.
Just generally, that's just what it is. That being said, and I've mentioned this before, I'm a huge proponent for intergender wrestling matches. I've said this before, maybe women can't, as far as overpower a man, but they can outsmart a man. They can be faster than a man. There's different ways to win a match. You could make a man submit. You know, so there's different ways to have a woman win a match. It doesn't have to be like they come in, bunch of power bombs, and they're doing these huge moves on Brock Lesnar. They could be a quick schoolboy out of nowhere, quick roll up. So
that's the thing about wrestling. That's the whole point, right? You can do these kind of crazy things.
So that's exactly. That's exactly right. So on one hand, I get where Booker T, you can't necessarily book it. That's how you tell the match, though. You can't book it where necessarily the woman overpowers the man.
Right.
I guess in some situations you could if it's believable enough, but generally speaking, if we're talking about genetics, you're going to have to sort of fight that angle. But again, I mentioned before, there's tons of ways a woman could beat a man in a match. To me, it's not a stupid idea.
Well, no, go watch New Japan.
Exactly.
What was it? It was Kenny Omega versus an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my go-to of creative book. I don't want to say it was realistic, but it was believable.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the world of pro wrestling, it was believable, and your attention is wrapped the whole time.
Right.
You could do anything in pro wrestling. Just do it.
Well, you see it all on the independent circuit, which is, and Booker T seems to think, okay, that's just where it belongs. Well, no, I don't think it does. And I think there's an opportunity because you got two workers, and wrestling is suspension of disbelief. And the idea is that these characters are larger than life.
Yeah.
So why in the comics, having Wonder Woman versus, as far as like a male villain is not a big deal, but in wrestling it is. So I get from like WWE standpoint, as far as sponsors like Mattel, they probably don't want to, in terms of like have like the sort of simulation of men hitting women and whatnot. But I don't know. I think there's a smart way you can do it.
There are ways to do it.
Yeah.
There are ways to do it. There's always a way to do it. You need to just, I don't know. It's just people are so hung up on they're more worried about what things are versus what they mean.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's all about context. But the problem is the knee-jerk reaction from so many people is just, no, you can't do it at all. it just won't ever work. It's the worst thing ever. You're Hitler's housekeeper if you do it.
Well, and suffice to say, Impact, they pulled the trigger, and here we are.
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard. And I was mentioning before, Kimberly and Shakara, she was sort of the first, as far as woman to hold a predominantly men's title. I don't want to sugarcoat Tessa Blanchard's either, even though she officially would be the second. I have to believe that Impact's got a larger audience than Shakara. So, again, this is, I think, an historic step forward for women.
Sure.
So there's that. There's that we should definitely be hooting and hawing. This is cool. There is some surrounding controversy, though, around the same time, actually right before she won the world title. Allison Kay and Chelsea Green are alleging that they were bullied and some other professional wrestlers, as well as spitting and directing a racial slur, as we understand the N-word, at another fellow professional wrestler. By the name Black Rose, La Rosa Negra. Blanchard denied the allegation at this point, but it's one of those when I initially heard about it, I was like, well, bullying. I'm like, well, yeah, doesn't everyone get bullied in wrestling? It seems like it's not right, but I feel like everyone gets bullied. But then you sort of heard about the spitting and then the racial slur. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, that's more than just ribbing or something.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, you're absolutely right. That's
way more.
Especially nowadays. Definitely not acceptable these days. That said, though, it's again a situation of it's a hallway of mirrors. Who do we believe? We've got a handful of people saying this is how it is, but there is no actual proof.
It's hard to tell.
She said.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But whenever that happens, I usually am inclined to believe the victim enough to try and push for some sort of investigation, right?
Right.
I always say believe the victim enough to look into it. Hear them out, hear what they have to say. And the other thing is that whenever things like this happen, we could take this, for example, of course, the Weinstein situation, that whole mess, right? Whenever these actresses would speak up, and they've talked about this in interviews and things, is whenever these actresses would speak up, a lot of people would immediately label them as the troublemaker, or they're too much more trouble than they're worth. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's right, but this is just what certain casting directors or things are like, oh, she's always having trouble with their male counterparts. And maybe that's because, they're doing something wildly inappropriate, but to these casting directors, that person becomes the troublemaker and the problem. So you're putting your professional career on the line. I don't see it as being that much different from Hollywood. What's happening in wrestling is like, you're still a performer, you're still going out there every day. It's very similar to what Hollywood people have to go through in terms of the trouble that they have. So it's like for someone to take the time to come forward and talk about this, they're putting it all on the line in most cases. You know what I mean? I mean, these wrestlers we're talking about, they're not the top of the mountain people where, they speak and the earth moves. They're starting out at the bottom in the middle, trying to climb up there. And for them to take a stand, it must be something serious. So I'm inclined to believe them.
Well, you're right. And generally when you have a lot of people saying one thing, hey, there you go. But yeah, I think it always merits an investigation of some sort. But again, I don't see anyone really coming to Tessa's as far as aid here. But it's one of those, if it is true, which sounds like it could be, if it is true, it's awful. Any way you look at it. And then you think about, well, this is kind of like, we were just talking about how this is an historic step for women. It sort of taints that, I think, a little bit. But in this situation, the good came with the bad. But yeah, anyway you look at it, it's kind of a horrible situation.
Do you think she got the title because of these allegations?
I don't think so. I think that they had it planned all along. She get the title. And I think to make changes like that, it's you basically decided this is going to be the guy, the man, so to speak, right? And so, no, I think that they had that planned all along. I think from their end, they thought, this is bad timing. Like we're going to go with Tessa all along, and here we are. But
I guess I'm just used to the Vince McMahon way of doing things, where things can turn on a dime.
Right. Well, no, and that's... Yeah, and again, I don't know.
They probably did have it planned, though. That's true.
And then you can also say the same situation where Tessa's in the limelight, and suddenly these accusations come out. I mean, these accusations, these aren't things that just happened a few weeks ago.
Right.
So it's been a while, apparently. So again, it's like, why did these not come out before? I know we're kind of more of a woke culture, and we're just sort of letting it all out, and anything bad happen, we're letting people know, and that's probably the way life needs to be, right?
Well, that's the ideal, right?
Right.
I still feel like the unfortunate reality is some folks just can't do that, know?
Right.
But I'm glad they have come forward. If these allegations are legit, good for you. Come forward, speak, It's kind of like a bittersweet situation. Like, it's great. Again, I mentioned before the historical movement of women holding this title. It's awesome. It's huge. But then you hear about, well, look at the surrounding controversy. This is kind of the representation of it, and it kind of makes you... It's a little tainted.
It taints it a little bit, but it was definitely an historic night at Impact. And yeah, I mean, Impact, it's been... I think it's interesting. I do watch a lot of great wrestling Impact. Of course, I watch everything from Impact to NWA to Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW. So that's a great thing as a wrestling fan. You can kind of pick and choose. But this season, and I think any wrestling fan can agree, it's WrestleMania season. It's WrestleMania season. It officially kicks off with the Royal Rumble. Josh, let's get right down to it. Last year, now we did say Kofi Kingston would go on to win the world title.
Yes.
At WrestleMania, which we were right.
We called it.
We did actually call Kofi Kingston to win the Royal Rumble last year. All right?
Yes.
He didn't, but he got there a different way.
Right.
And that's what makes the Royal Rumble interesting is that with the device of the Elimination Chamber, you don't really know who's going to win the Royal Rumble anymore because they may just have Raw win the Royal Rumble.
Everything doesn't
And then
hinge
everything
on
shifts
that.
to SmackDown. So so it's not all contingent on that. So again, I'm going to stick with my pick. I think Kofi Kingston's going to win the Royal Rumble and challenge Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Oh, I'd love that, wouldn't you? Like I was thinking about that earlier today. Is like because I feel like certain title changes WWE values more than others, and are more likely to come back to it and keep it a thing. And I was trying to figure out how WWE and how Vince, I guess you could say specifically, feels about Kofi Kingston right now to see if I'm like, will they revisit that? Or are they just going to let it go? You know, like we don't hear about Jinder Mahal trying to come back and get his title back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping that for Kofi, though, it is somebody that they're invested in his championship reign enough for him to maybe, play a little bit of back and forth with Brock Lesnar for a little bit.
Right.
That would be interesting if Kofi eliminated Brock Lesnar, who, as we know, is in the Royal Rumble.
Well, and I could also see Cain Velasquez.
Oh, hey.
Because
what if he comes in? What if he interferes? So he's
could
involved
be.
still,
The rumor is that he mentioned in some interview, I forgot with who, but that he would be coming back to wrestling in the next month, which would be Royal Rumble, unless they want to stick him on a Raw or something. But my assumption is he'd come out and actually eliminate Brock Lesnar to kind of even the score with Crown Jewel. But I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is like Cain Velasquez really put Brock Lesnar over at Crown Jewel.
Yeah, that's for sure.
To me, to have Cain Velasquez come out and just throw Brock Lesnar over the rope would be kind of the way to even it out. But I don't know. Personally, I'd like to see Kofi Kingston win. What are your thoughts? Who do you think could win the men's Royal Rumble?
Personally, I would love to see Kofi win.
Yeah. Who do you think will win?
What I'm a little afraid that WWE is going to end up doing is having Roman Reigns win, and then it's going to be some lame Reigns Lesnar thing. And hey, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Reigns or anything. There's just a lot of people I feel that are just better equipped right now to take on, quote, the guy in Brock Lesnar, because I'm tired as hell of Brock Lesnar, so I'd be happy.
How
for
can he be
anybody
tired?
else.
He never shows up.
I know, that's the thing. The man's in hibernation, but every 2 months.
I'll say this: I think that we're going to see Roman Reigns, the Fiend, at WrestleMania. How we get there is a whole different story.
Right.
But I don't know. To me, like Roman Reigns, Lesnar, I threw it out there a couple podcast episodes ago that we might see the actual official rematch of WrestleMania 31, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. But of course, with Seth Rollins' turn here, I don't know that's a direction they would necessarily go.
Sure.
But personally, yeah, at this point, I kind of see Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, maybe headlining WrestleMania.
That'd be something.
Yeah, but
that's probably what's going to happen. Actually,
well, it's interesting. So he beat Robert Roode, beat Robert Roode at SmackDown in a tables match. If you watch the video, technically Robert Roode won because Roman Reigns, when he speared him, his head and arm went through the table first.
Yeah,
so that's something to think about. So
that's a good point.
So yeah, there's some shenanigans there,
You can
but
always call that up. Yeah.
Right, but no, I think that we'll probably see Roman Reigns, The Fiend, the WrestleMania. I do think The Fiend's going to retain over Daniel Bryan. I think it'll be a good match. I do think that I can't see Daniel Bryan really winning this.
Not yet. I feel they could still squeeze more out of that orange.
Well, here's the thing, though. The Fiend is technically undefeated.
Yeah.
I guess there was the referee stoppage, but we'll just say the Fiend, for all intents and purposes, is undefeated. So this is a big deal. So you want to give it to someone. If you're going to have him job, I would have him do it at WrestleMania, where it actually made a big deal.
Exactly.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens, though. But the women's Royal Rumble match, I honestly think we're going to probably have number 30 come in. It's going to be Ronda Rousey. She's going to win it. We'll have Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. I mean, there's nowhere else they can go with this, really. We can't do Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair again. It's for WrestleMania. So it's got to be, I'm thinking Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania.
What if they do the three of them again? They shove Charlotte back in yet again. They're so good at like taking Charlotte and just shoving her into things, and then maybe sometimes they take her back out, or sometimes but they're always like, all right, add some Charlotte. It's like salt for Vince McMahon. Add some
let me ask you this: if she's not in the main event of WrestleMania, what is she going to do? Maybe she wins the Elimination Chamber or something and goes on to take on I don't know. Well, she's on Raw, so she couldn't technically take on Bayley, but WB can always make something work. But that's actually a really good point, Josh, is that if she's not, if it's just going to be Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey in the main event at WrestleMania, where would Charlotte Flair go?
That's the thing.
And that's what it opens up. It's like, well, she would be in the triple threat, and they'd have a rematch from last year.
Yeah.
Or this time, it's like Charlotte Flair beats Becky or something, and Ronda Rousey is still untouched. Oh,
there you go.
But that's the thing, is I think that there's more money in a Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey match.
I'd say so. Well, I mean, yeah, I'd prefer just the two of them and keep Charlotte out of that one. It's just, that'd be good stuff.
Or maybe Charlotte Flair is a special guest referee. Who knows? But
there you go.
But yeah, again, I would assume that Charlotte Flair is going to want to wrestle at the big dance, but to be the special guest referee in a main event, not a bad move,
she could
right?
Be the enforcer.
Well, and they've shown it before, where you look at Hell in a Cell, where HBK was a referee.
Yes.
For Triple H and Undertaker, but you might as well call that a triple threat. Shawn Michaels was heavily involved in that. Super kicking, getting involved. Basically, Triple H should have won that match. He was going to take a sledgehammer, and Shawn Michaels said, no, you're not going to do it this way.
Right.
So it's like he cost him a streak there. So, no, I mean, we've seen where referees get highly, highly active and involved. So this could be a situation where that happens. But yeah, basically, it'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with that. I do think Ronda Rousey, though, will come out and maybe number 30 and win the Women's Royal Rumble. That said, Bayley, Lacey Evans, kind of part of this whole WrestleMania main event puzzle. I got to assume, and this is something I've thought about, do you think Lacey Evans could win the title? I think that it's interesting. I see why they're going with her. She's younger. She's a good worker in the ring. She's got, as far as the previous background with as far as like the Army and all that, she's an upstanding citizen. Why not sort of build SmackDown around her? But to me, I think, again, it's one of those payoffs where maybe have Bayley win, because then further down the road, when you actually have her win at WrestleMania, say the win's even bigger. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But Lacey Evans, Bayley, who do you think? What's your choice there?
Yeah, I think you're right about Lacey. This might be her time to. Well, I mean, I could see it going either way, but I think they might give it to Lacey.
Yeah,
and then just the feud will keep going. But I'm going to give it to Lacey on this one.
All right, and then Roman Reigns. We just talked about Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin.
I think this rivalry feud, whatever the hell you want to call it, this high school bullying nonsense, I think it's going to end at Royal Rumble. I don't think it has much steam left,
which is unfortunate. The King losing at the Royal Rumble, like, come on.
Oh, that would have been good, but I don't know. I think that Corbin can do better, Reigns can do better. They will both do better. Well, just put this to rest.
Well, you're right, because here's the thing. The Usos are going to get involved. Dolph Ziggler's going to get involved. Robert Roode's going to get involved. So really, it's not you're putting sort of 3 over 3. So that's kind of the thing. It's like, well, you're also going to have the Usos job if Roman Reigns doesn't get the job done. So yeah, I kind of see Roman Reigns getting through this. Although the issue with Baron Corbin is this: it's not Baron Corbin. And I mentioned this before. People love to hate him. Now you seem to think it's the other way around. Although I know he's kind of warming up to you.
I'm warming up now. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think Baron Corbin is a great worker. He's always showed up prepared, gets the job done. I think how he's being booked. They have him come out acting kind of like pompous and whatnot. Yeah. To me, it's just not believable. This is a Golden Gloves champion. Baron Corbin, he played football in the NFL. All right, you can't be a slouch and play in the NFL. Like, that's the cream of the crop. He's done wrestling. Obviously, he's a pro wrestler. He's got a lot of accolades, with WB alone. But that said, like, he is a terrific worker. I think how they should book him is like when he first came out. Like, think back to like NXT when he came out. It was kind of like the end of days.
He was very mysterious, very dark, very credible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They can have him dress up and come out like that still. But in terms of the King, that's fine. You want to have him dress up as a king, that's cool. But still make it dark. He comes out all pompous like. Yeah. To me, it's just not who he is.
Yeah. Well, I think I can kind of almost pinpoint when they kind of changed his character. When he was made the general manager of
the
Raw.
Constable.
The Constable Corbin, and that whole thing, and that really, they could have kept that character, but given him the attitude of being like a serious, someone legit. But instead, they started slowly bringing him into being kind of more of a goof or a doofus or just kind of an idiot. Like I compared him to like a jock, like a high school jock bully.
Yeah.
And then when he was blamed for all the troubles of Raw by the McMahons, I think that really sealed the deal of like, this guy's, he's kind of a doofus character.
Right.
He's just an asshole. He's not the calculating, conniving. Because honestly, I felt like if they developed his character and they kind of kept playing off of what they did when he debuted, he would become like a new, cerebral assassin 2.0 kind of character.
Yeah,
he could have easily.
Exactly, yeah.
But instead, they kind of took him like, derp. It's like that episode of The Simpsons where there was the cop character named Homer Simpson. Did you ever see this one?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, like, Homer's watching this show called Police Cops, and he's like, Homer Simpson, and he's like this suave, cool, slick guy, and Homer loves it because it's his name, but the guy's awesome. He's smart. He gets the ladies. But then in like 2 episodes later, they changed the character like being this complete bumbling doofus. And he's like, SpaghettiOs, and like his hat's on backwards. He doesn't have pants on. It's just, and of course Homer's very upset about this. But it's in a way, it's kind of sort of in a more low key way. This is what they kind of did to Baron Corbin's character a little bit.
Okay. Well, you're right. And so that's, I think, where the problem is. It's not really, again, it's not Baron Corbin. He's doing everything he needs to do right. It's just the creative. It's how he's being produced. And I think if you drop him being pompous and just make him like actually a badass, and then, hey, when Roman Reigns needs to go over, that's fine. Or if you need to have Baron Corbin go over for a night, have him do a heel thing and low blow him, or as far as have something in his boot and just spike him in the eye. I'd do something like that. But generally speaking, 90% of the time he can come out, be a badass powerhouse, and I think that's he should be a king. He should be a little more braver. But to me, it's just, again, he's pompous. He's the high school bully kind of mentioned. But
it just does that kind of cowardly heel thing just doesn't fit for Corbin.
That's right. Yeah. Other than that, we'll get Shorty G and Sheamus. Got to assume Sheamus will win this one. Although I do enjoy Shorty G, I kind of wish they just sort of book him as Chad Gable. Why not? But, hey, I guess this thing is something for him. It keeps him in the limelight. But, yeah, I can't imagine they're going to slow down Sheamus's push at all. But, hey, who knows? I mean, again, speak of a good worker, Shorty G has been there, has delivered, has been consistent, has a great background as a professional athlete, Olympic athlete. So let's hopefully it's not just a squash match and they're doing something good with this, so.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do more with it. I mean, just the way this character is right now, it's like
they took Baron Corbin, like the whole like short jokes, and they just gave it to Sheamus. So to me, it's just a carbon copy. Right. It's just like, well, we've already seen this, and it's just dumb.
Right. But just the way the character itself, Shorty G, it's, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, he should just be Chad Gable and not this short gimmick. It's like they're taking like the can-do perseverance attitude of John Cena and combining it with this like little guy aesthetic thing going on,
which I like
in a way. But it's so. They're doing it in such a ham-fisted way. Like, there's one thing to be like, okay, he's the underdog. And he's coming up because he's not the biggest guy, but the way WWE just keeps hammering on it is just, you're short.
Right.
Even Daniel Bryan, like, he's not the biggest guy, but they just said, oh, you're just a B+ player, and they gave him a little more than just being a little guy.
Yeah.
They need to do that with Shorty G because he's an excellent wrestler, he's likable, and he could be more. So, yeah, I mean, sadly, they are going to probably give this to Sheamus because they need to build Sheamus. But I'm hoping that they do that, but they make it a back-and-forth thing or like a real feud. Give him a real feud with Sheamus,
Yeah. And, I mentioned before, too, we might see as far as the Usos, part of the as far as the Roman Reigns falls count anywhere. Well, but my assumption is we'll probably actually see, on top of that, I guess sort of the one final match we might see is a New Day with the tag belts against John Morrison and Miz. That hasn't been announced, but I assume that's maybe the way we're going to go. So we'll see if we get that. But yeah, no, again, the Rumble is always a good pay-per-view. I really, thinking back, there's only been a few WrestleMania, or Royal Rumbles rather, that I was like really ticked off. I think really just the one with Batista winning the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
That was kind of the one I was like, interesting, okay, but nonetheless, here we are. But
the Rumble's one of my favorites, that's for sure.
Well, the Battle Royal just in general has always been my favorite, and it's one. I think why it's my favorite is I'm not good at calling it. I'm generally wrong with who the winner is. There's so many variables, and WWE has done a really good job with WrestleMania's season that you just don't know. Is in terms of like who's going to be at WrestleMania. It used to be sort of you had to figure out, okay, who's going to wrestle the Undertaker. Yeah. Then you kind of build around that. But with the Undertaker, who knows if he'll be here this year.
Yeah.
We'll see that. But yeah, with the Royal Rumble and of course the Elimination Chamber, there's so many ways to get this thing shuffled up. It's really entertaining. There's so many variables. So we'll see what we get. But no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Josh, you got anything else for us?
Be sure to subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Hit that like button. It helps us out. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
That's right. And be cool with each other. It's January. I know it's a tough time of year for a lot of folks. So
stay warm.
Hang in there, and be cool with each other. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
Good night, everybody.